On New Year's Day, President Muhammadu Buhari delivered an address to Nigerians, which many analysts have branded a lot of things, ranging from same of the same to ordinary to hardly inspiring to all whatnot. But there seems to be a consensus that the president, once again, was able to articulate the most pressing problems of the nation in a clear and concise manner. He also spoke elaborately about the achievements of his administration over several sectors of the economy. Well, joining us now to take a look back at the high points of that presidential address is Osita Okechukwu, Director General of the Voice of Nigeria and a top-notcher of the ruling All Progressives Congress. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. I'm better Nigeria. I'm better here.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us again on the morning show. Well, very quickly, as Adesuwa has pointed out, reactions are mixed in terms of responses to the president's New Year message. Some people think it was a great speech that demonstrated statesmanship. Some people, groups, insist that it was an empty statement full of statements of intention and policies and very low on substance. Well, you are a member of the APC. I think many of our viewers will assume that, oh, you naturally defend the president. But, you know, as an intellectual in your own right, what's your take? What do you think?
Let me start by saying that Mr. President actually raised our hopes, reaffirmed his commitment to engage the insecurity in the land, to diversify the economy, and renew his fight against corruption. And he placed the youth in the front burner, acknowledged the EndSARS incident of last year, admitted that his regime did not meet sufficiently to the expectation of most Nigerians, but renewed faith that he's going to engage. And it cannot be said it's an empty. When you look side by side by the budget of 2001, you also remember that last year, in 2020, was a big calamity globally and a turbulent year. A lot of people do not remember that there was a time in 2020 the Nigerian barrel of oil was not being sold, that it was floating. And what we were then incurring was demurrage. It sold below $20 per barrel, something that I used to sell sometimes above $100 per barrel. So Mr. President renewed faith in the Nigerian state and also told the Nigerian people that yes, we are down, but we are not out. I think that is statesmanly. He did not hang on utopia only to say all is well. He acknowledged that it had been a turbulent year, that there have been frustrations and pains, but that will not be the case this year. And we're all looking forward that that will not be the case. So I'm not talking as a partisan person. I'm not talking because I'm a member of the All Progressive Congress. Now, I'm talking as a Nigerian, that actually Mr. President was able to highlight the ups and downs, where it pains, and also raise the hope. Hope is the flag. And when you go through his budget, for instance, he has a provision in the budget for an agricultural program that will be intended to attract youths to agriculture more than they did in the past 5 years when he started the Anchor Borrowers program and what I call the Buhari Agrarian Revolution. So to me, it is not an empty speech. It is a speech targeted at the basic resource of the country, the youths.
Are you saying that this was a difficult speech for the president, considering that he's reiterating promises 5 years after, as the administration is struggling to record tangible successes in those key promises to Nigerians? And at what point in the life of this administration do you think that we'll begin to see those tangible outcomes? Let's be specific. Say security, which is one of the C agenda of the administration.
Yes, there are insecurity in the country. Nobody can deny that. But when you look at the larger conundrum of the insecurity in the country, you also know that something is being done. And a lot is being done. What people forget is because the security is an issue where Mr. President cannot come publicly to start letting us know what he's been doing and what the security armed forces are doing. He cannot do that because that's not in the sync of managing the security of a country like ours. So that's part of, and I will not even come here to do so because the little I know that is going on, both on the deployment of technology, I cannot open up here and say that. But we can see what the Nigerian Air Force, for instance, is doing. There is an increased input and a renewed vigor on the part of the armed forces, both the Nigerian Air Force, the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Police Force, the Nigerian Navy. So we cannot calibrate in a twinkle of an eye. I know the pain, and I know how those who have summarized and who have failed. But please, I will advise that it is also important, as His Grace Archbishop Ignatius Kagama was saying this morning in AIT. He was able to say that we need objective assessment. Let's not just call the regime zero when we know that there are high points. It is not because of one of few incidents that we should just call the regime zero. No, that doesn't make sense. When we remember, for instance, that there was a time when Boko Haram was bombing Abuja. There was a time when they bombed Madala. There was a time when up to 14 local councils in the Borno State had their flags. We tend to forget those events as if it never happened. Yes, there's insecurity. Yes, solutions are being sought, and we are engaging on daily basis on how to get the herdsmen farmers clashes off the streets, how to reduce the banditry and the kidnapping, and then the insurgency. That's exactly what's going on, but nobody can publicly.
Okay. Okay, sir, we laud the efforts, but yes. Let's not also forget that there's a clear difference between objective, insight and confirmation bias, like you're making everybody seem that the media is doing now. But moving up from that, yeah, we should all be dealers in hope. But I want specifics as regards security, what has been done. I'm sure you heard about the incident that is reported on international media this morning about Borno, people taken away. I'm sure you also would want to know, like many other Nigerians, about what specifically will be done to the young people that their voices have been heard. Is it the 774,000 jobs that they have created, which are, sort of like not really high-income jobs, and that can move the needle in the economy. When you look at it in the long run, we need high-power jobs for the skilled young Nigerians that are leaving, that are taking that same skill to build the Canadian economy. What specifically? And I also want you to talk about the things you've been doing, because it was June 12th, a couple of years back now, that the president said we are going to bring millions of people out of poverty over the next 10 years. So I want you to speak quickly to all those two issues.
Let me start from where you took off from. While there are pockets of events in the Borno axis, there's also bombardment in the key encampments like the Sambisa and other forests that are littered across that region, where Air Force is trying to clear the bandits of the way. the Kaduna-Abuja road is safer today because of the efforts of the Nigerian Armed Forces and the Nigerian Armed Forces as a whole. And when you come, we are not talking about the 774,000 employment. We are saying that far back in 2015, Mr. President, via the Central Bank of Nigeria, entered what is called the Anchor Borrowers Program. The Anchor Borrowers Program is still open. He had employed more youths and women and subsistence farmers, more than any other arm of what we have done in the past 5 years. And we are still pleading with the youths that all is not only about the white-collar jobs or the blue-collar job, that back there in your community, because the Anchor Borrowers Program is structured in such a manner that it is community-based. It is aimed at raising a cadre of the middle class at the community level. It's going to employ more people than the artisan 774 or 1,000 per local government. It's going to do that. And it had done that before. And luckily, it is now easier because some associations have been created, like the Rice Farmers Association, the Palm Produce Association, the Cassava Association, the Soya Beans Association, the Vegetable Association. And with all these, everything is open. And that's where we keep on begging the governors of the states and
Mr.
the local council
Okechukwu,
chairman.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry to
Yes.
interrupt you at this point. We need to take a quick commercial break. When we return, we'll come back to you. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us as our guest is Osita Okechukwu, Director General of the Voice of Nigeria and a top-notcher of the ruling All Progressives Congress. And he's been helping us to review and break down the President's New Year message. Thank you for staying with us, Mr. Okechukwu. If you may just conclude your thoughts on, the President's speech following the question from Rufai before we move on to the next question.
Yes, I'm trying to say that we are engaging in a multilateral approach. While we are engaging and encouraging the youth to join farming, Mr. President had directed the National Civil Defense Security Corps to intensify recruitment on what they call the agro rangers to help to protect our farms. And we know as well that some state governors, like in Enugu where I come from, they have what they call, the governor established what is called the forest guards. And in other states, one pocket of local group is also protecting the farms. So our youths, while we are into information technology and others, please, the farming remains where the 70% of Nigerians are employed. And the intendment of the program of Buhari Agrarian Revolution is to transform the subsistence farmers to commercial farmers. And he is engaging in all fronts through extra-cathedral sources, international organizations, the local investors, that to get our people back. Because Mr. President's mantra is let's produce what we eat. A lot of people forget that when the COVID started, countries like Thailand closed their borders, and there was no importation or smuggling of rice coming this way. If not for the effort of Mr. President from 2015, we would have been in a worse situation of food insecurity. So let us all join hands, both the governors, the local council chairmen. A lot of satellites seems to be deemed only at the federal government of Nigeria. And a lot of people forget that the state government and the local councils, they're also involved in sharing the revenue of the federation. For more than 40% goes down to the local council and the states. And luckily for the state governors, all of them are in control of their local councils. There's no free and fair election at that level. So they are all managing their local council. But we encourage them to join hands with the federal government in boosting agriculture and small-scale industry. There's a registration going on now on what they call the Federation of Small Businesses. We need to pay attention because if you empower the small businessman, he employs more. That is how most countries of the world lifted a lot of people out of poverty. So, Arif, I understand what you're saying, but let's not use 2020 as the only yardstick. It has been a very terrible year globally. It's not only in Nigeria.
Well, earlier on in the course of this conversation, you pointed out what the president said about the youth. And Adesua also drew attention to it. The president said specifically that our youths represent a strategic national resource. And he promised that the federal government is committed to those 5 NSAS demands. Isn't it curious that as we speak, even an attempt by some young persons to ring in the new year with some kind of protest about their expectations from government, we saw imagery of police brutality. They were attacked, they were arrested, they have been detained, including Omoye Oleshoure, who was leading the Revolution Now movement. Now, don't you think that that's rather contradictory? Government says on one hand that it would support free speech and defend the interests of youths, and then about the same time, the same government clamps down on a peaceful, ringing in of 2021.
The point of the matter is that I would never support anybody who is any organization that wants to reduce the freedom that we enjoy under democracy. That freedom is fundamental to democracy. So I would never support that. But for my friend Showore is also aware that he's not engaged in an objective analysis of the challenges facing the country. He never bothered to look back and say, okay, this is a country that had depended on one mono economy, the oil resource, over decades. And this is a government for the first time that is putting more resources within the few resources that come its way to diversify this economy. And nobody remembers that since President Buhari came to power, a barrel of oil had never sold above $60. And most of the time it's below 40. And when you are dependent on a single item, and I've asked them, we had a meeting at Owerri, and there was this debate. And I asked them, if you do business with federal government of Nigeria, will you agree or disagree that there's more prudence in management of the public finance of the federal government of Nigeria? Anybody that does business with the federal government will know that there's more prudence in management of public finance. If that prudence was not there, we could have been in a worst case scenario. So for sure, we will require an objective analysis of the challenges. Assuming if today we're in democracy, by 2023, Mr. President will leave the scene. Have they told us the alternate plan they have? Even those who call for restructuring. When Mr. President brought the executive order in support of Section 1213 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, that says that the state legislatures and the state judiciaries should have their own funding directly so that they can be independent or more independent than they are today. That the legislature should not be rubber stamp legislatures. I was in my state the other day. A young man sauntered into where we are, and everybody got up. And I didn't get up. I don't know who he is. They told me, oh boy, this is the man representing you at the House of Assembly. I said, Honorable, sorry. Are you the one? He said, yes. I said, why come we didn't hear of you? He said those who made noise in the Enugu State Assembly never came back. That he's not going there to make noise. So most of the state legislatures are rubber stamp. So we need to also get the states to be part of what's going on. in a collaboration between the local council, the state and the federal government, Nigeria will be better off with the little we have. Let's domesticate the anti-graft war. Let's domesticate the agricultural program at the local level. It's not only to collect the money from the center and you go home and nothing happens. And luckily, we have all joined their drum. Nobody talks about what goes on in his local council. Nobody talks about what his governor is doing. One focus at the center. So please, let my colleagues in the media, we need also once in a while in Arise Television, in Channel Television, AIT, in TVC and others, and to do some audit of what the governors are doing. We tend to forget that.
Okay, very briefly, we may be out of time. Finally, let's touch on anti-corruption fights by the administration. In the president's New Year message, there was a lot of blame to go around the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature, but they've been pushed back. Some legislators say the president is just full of excuses. What's your comment?
I don't know what anybody can call full of excuses because the agency I heard today, the Voice of Nigeria, were beneficiaries of the anti-graft war of Mr. President. By the time I resumed office in 2016, we had no office. But today we inherited one of the recovered assets. And I know a lot of agencies, federal government agencies that inherited other assets. We are no more paying the rentage today. We can now say that where we are today in the Wuse 2 is owned by the federal government of Nigeria and the Voice of Nigeria. So it's very easy to dismiss the collective efforts being made. But as I said, I plead with my compatriots that we need an objective analysis to be in a position to add input on how we overcome the challenges we have been faced with. We need options. We need alternatives. We need to know what is the next move. Yes, the army procured social amount of armory. If you were there, what will you procure? Is it different from the same that have been procured? And this is the amount of money we have. We could not do this because there is paucity of funds in the country. What do we do next? I applied from Owerri back to Enugu. The road I met was not the road I saw 6 years ago. Yes, the Enugu-Parakou had not been completed, but a lot have been achieved in trying to rehabilitate and put a new face to the road. And in other places where I passed through, the federal government of Nigeria had done so. If that was done 6 years ago, that money could have been used for something else.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Osita Okechukwu, Director General of the Voice of Nigeria. Thank you very much indeed for your insights.